A very good morning. It's just past 8 this Wednesday morning and we're back again with Breakfast News. I'm Rukma and with me is Preeti. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Rukma.
And well, in our news today, we tell you how the message from India, the message from Raksha Mantri in Parliament yesterday, loud and clear, China transgressed the border and China should not alter the status quo. All the latest updates on COVID from within the country and the world, also a review of the top stories on the web, sports and a special segment on health.
Yes, also when you're talking of the COVID times, Rukma, interestingly, we all are, boosting our immunity through karas, through turmeric milk and through other immunity boosters. But there is this one special report which we will carry in our breakfast show, which will talk of how immunity can be boosted through clothes. Can you believe it? In Madhya Pradesh, special sarees are being made which would boost your immunity, your skin immunity. How is that possible? We'll tell you. Stay with us for the next 1 hour. First, we get to the top stories.
Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh makes a strong statement in Parliament on border issues with China. States China's attempt to alter status quo is unacceptable. Says Indian troops are in absolute state of readiness to defend country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Urges Parliament to stand firmly with the forces.
Of the monsoon session today, Lok Sabha to take up Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Bill 2020 and the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement of Price Assurance and Farm Services Bill 2020 for consideration and passage. Government to introduce these bills in lieu of the two important ordinances related to farmers.
Cabinet approves the establishment of new AIIMS at Darbhanga in Bihar to boost quality healthcare, medical institutions and research. Cabinet also approves Haryana Orbital Rail Corridor project from Palwal to Sonipat via Sona Manesar Kharkhoda.
India slams Pakistan and Organization of Islamic Cooperation at Human Rights Council meeting in Geneva for anti-India propaganda. Says it has become habitual for Pakistan to malign India with false and fabricated narratives for its self-serving malicious purposes. Rejects the reference made by OIC to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, which is an integral part of India.
Government says there is no shortage in oxygen supply anywhere in the country. ICMR says Serum Institute is ready to start phase 3 trials at 15 places in the country. COVID mortality rate in India falls to 1.64%.
Israel, Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates signed the historic Abraham Accord brokered by the United States at the White House. Under the accord, 3 countries will establish embassies, appoint ambassadors and work as partners.
US presidential election campaign hots up. President Trump addresses rally in Nevada. Says his plan is to arrest domestic terrorists. Trump's rival Joe Biden holds rally in Florida. Says Trump only focused on stock market. That is why the COVID crisis is so bad in the United States. Well, the morale of our Indian forces is high. This was the message that echoed in Parliament yesterday as there were lots of fruitful discussions. We tell you all about it and more top stories from across the country in our first segment, National.
Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh on record sent across a stern message to China stating that morale of the Indian forces is high. Rajnath Singh made a comprehensive statement in Lok Sabha on recent developments and Chinese provoked aggression. The message was loud and clear that China transgressed the border and that China should not alter the status quo. Rajnath Singh put into context various aspects of the standoff and border question which have raised tensions since independence and India's firm position on peaceful resolution and territorial integrity. The minister assured that the government is equipped to deal with each and every situation.
बीते समय में भी चीन के साथ हमारे बॉर्डर एरियाज में लंबे स्टैंड ऑफ्स की स्थिति यह कई बार बनी है, जिसका शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से समाधान भी किया गया था। हालांकि इस वर्ष की स्थिति, चाहे वो ट्रूप्स की स्केल ऑफ इन्वॉल्वमेंट हो या फ्रिक्शन पॉइंट्स की संख्या हो, वह पहले से बहुत अलग है। फिर भी हम मौजूदा स्थिति के शांतिपूर्ण समाधान के लिए पूरी तरह से कमिटेड हैं। इसके साथ साथ मैं सदन को आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं कि हम सभी परिस्थितियों से निपटने के लिए भी तैयार हैं।
Raksha Mantri also made it clear that China has been increasing its troop presence along the eastern Ladakh area since April in violation of bilateral agreements and protocols. Indian troops have defended and countered the aggressive attitude of the Chinese soldiers. India also made it clear to China that attempts to change the status quo unilaterally were not acceptable. China, who has agreed to this, still reneged, and the Galwan incident happened, to which Indian soldiers retaliated in due measure.
एलएसी के ऊपर फ्रिक्शन बढ़ता हुआ देखकर दोनों तरफ के सैन्य कमांडरों ने 6 जून 2020 को मीटिंग की तथा इस बात पर सहमत बनी कि रेसिप्रोकल एक्शंस के द्वारा डिसएंगेजमेंट किया जाए। दोनों पक्ष इस बात पर भी सहमत हुए कि एलएसी को माना जाएगा तथा कोई ऐसी कार्रवाई नहीं की जाएगी जिससे स्टेटस को बदले। किंतु इस सहमति के वायलेशन में चीन द्वारा एक वायलेंट फेस ऑफ की स्थिति 15 जून को गलवान में क्रिएट की गई। हमारे बहादुर सिपाहियों ने, हमारे बहादुर सेना के जवानों ने अपनी जान का बलिदान दिया और साथ ही चीनी पक्ष को भी भारी क्षति पहुंचाई है अध्यक्ष महोदय, और अपनी सीमा की सुरक्षा में वह कामयाब रहे।
Defense Minister said that China is in illegal possession of about 38,000 square kilometers of Indian land, and Pakistan has illegally handed over 5,180 square kilometers of POK to China. And the second day of the monsoon session of Parliament has turned out to be fruitful in both houses. Parliament on Tuesday passed a bill which seeks to improve India's aviation safety ratings and provide statutory status to regulatory institutions, including the Directorate General of Civil Aviation. Rajya Sabha passed the bill by voice vote, which was already passed by Lok Sabha in March. Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri said the passage of the bill will increase and improve the bench strength of the aviation industry.
The existing setup, the central government administers various aspects of civil aviation under the Aircraft Act of 1934 through the attached offices of the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, BCAS, and the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. These attached offices of DGCA, BCAS, and AAIB have been constituted under executive powers of the government, and their administrative duties and day-to-day functioning are governed by the government rules.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman assured that the centre is working to release the funds related to Polavaram project to the state of Andhra Pradesh at the earliest. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan gave a statement in Parliament on current COVID situation, stating that the government has taken the grip of the situation and is ahead of the curve in terms of containing it. In Lok Sabha, two bills, namely the Essential Commodities Amendment Bill 2020 and the Salary Allowances and Pension of Members of Parliament Amendment Bill 2020 were passed. The new amendments to the Salaries and Pensions Act intends to reduce the salaries of MPs by 30% for 1 year to meet the exigencies arising out of COVID-19 pandemic. On the third day of Parliament, there are important bills scheduled for consideration and passage. In Rajya Sabha, the important bills include Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda Bill 2020. Dr. Harshvardhan will move the bill to be passed. The bill aims to provide for establishment of an Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda and to declare it as an institution of national importance. Another important bill for consideration and passage is the Salaries and Allowances of Ministers Amendment Bill 2020. The bill was earlier passed in Lok Sabha. Union Home Minister Amit Shah will present the bill for passage. Also, Union Minister Shripad Yeso Naik will move the Homeopathy Central Council Amendment Bill 2020 and the Indian Medicine Central Council Amendment Bill 2020. There will be discussion on the statement made by Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan in Rajya Sabha regarding COVID-19 pandemic and also the steps taken by the government.
In the lower house, the important bills for consideration and passage include the Farmers' Produce, Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Bill 2020. Union Minister Narendra Singh Tomar will move the bill to provide for the creation of an ecosystem where farmers and traders enjoy the freedom of choice relating to sale and purchase of farmers' produce. Another bill, the Farmers' Empowerment and Protection Agreement of Price Assurance and Farm Services Bill 2020, will be moved in the House. The bill aims to provide for a national framework on farming agreements that protects and empowers farmers to engage with agri-business farms. And joining us now is our correspondent Abhishek Jha with more details on yesterday's Parliament. It was the second day of Parliament in the monsoon session in the new normal. Abhishek, Raksha Mantri there. The highlight of the day was, of course, Raksha Mantri's statement and what he said in strong words delineating India's stand on the India-China issue.
Good morning, Usma. And yesterday's statement by the Defence Minister is a clarity as to what is actually the situation along the line of control, because this was a demand from opposition leaders and various parties that there should be some clarity as to what is actually going on, because so far we have only been seeing reports based on sources like somebody doing from military sources or diplomatic sources, but then authoritative reporting was kind of missing. However, we have seen that the meeting between Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and his Chinese counterpart, what transpired in that meeting, there was a government press release on that. Then External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's meeting with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi, and how that five-pronged approach to ease the tension along the border that was developed during those meetings. So these were the part of discussion in the public discourse. However, when Rajnath Singh himself gave a statement in the Parliament, he also described what was his stand during the meeting with his Chinese counterpart, and he told the Parliament that he clearly stated the fact that no matter what, Indian troops and Indian forces would do everything to protect the sovereignty and integrity of our country, and no aggression of whatever sort will be acceptable to India. He also tried to persuade the Chinese side that they should go back to the negotiating table and discuss the issues of line of control, because both the sides have accepted and acknowledged the fact that there is a issue, there is a problem of perception on the boundary line, because we know that line of actual control is not the decided and mutually agreed boundary between India and China. It is it was decided as an interim measure which has not been confirmed, which has not been finally decided as the border by the either side. And so to ease the tension, because sometimes because of the perception problems, troops come closer to each other, and there has been in the past also some tension. But this time, what happened in Galwan Valley was unprecedented, and India did not take it lightly. And all the force deployment or the army's Jawans deployment along the border has been to mirror the deployment of Chinese side. He has also said that China has failed to explain the reason why China has deployed so much of arms, ammunition, and its troops along the LAC, because it looks on the face of it that if India is not trying to transgress to the Chinese side, then the point of Chinese troop could be that they would at some time would like to do some transgression and to counter that effort. India has done that much of troop employment there on the border, and he also explained that how India and China wants to negotiate at least at the political leadership level and ease the tension along the border.
All right, Abhishek, you're talking of highlights of the what all Raj, Defence Minister, said in Parliament. But I would want you to put into perspective for us, now that the statement has come in from the Defence Minister, to what extent will, or for that matter, how do we expect the relationship between the two countries to move from here on? Because earlier also we've seen both the sides have said that they want peace and tranquility at the LAC, but again there were instances of mistrust between the two sides. And now, Rajnath Singh, the Defence Minister himself, has said how China reneged from its position. So having said that, also we've seen how the standoff between the two sides has stretched to so many months together, and also talks at different levels are going on continuously to ease the tension or the standoff. Put all this together, now that we have the statement coming in from the Defence Minister in the Parliament, what impact will it have further, or for that matter, how do we expect the relationship to move from here on?
4-5 months that we have we have seen that as the Defence Minister himself said that since April this has increased, because the Chinese troop deployment started since April, and thereafter gradually the tension started simmering along the border and in other parts of LAC also, because India and China share almost more than 4,000 kilometers of boundary. At many places, the boundary and the demarcation line is disputed, and both sides do not agree on the line of control and but they try to mutually respect each other's integrity and sovereignty, and there has not been various cases of trespassing or firing by the troops or any violent skirmishes in the past many decades. However, the Galwan Valley was the clash where India did inflict a heavy loss on Chinese side, as the Defence Minister himself has said. Was a clear move from that position between both the sides. Also, Preeti, one should remember that there is clearly two-pronged strategy by both India and China. We have seen there is clearly a sign that India and China both wants to engage and continuously talk at the level of political leadership, at the level of diplomacy, and also at the level of military leaders. Different, because the deployment of troops, the deployments of artillery and the heavy armaments, that doesn't augur well with this approach of easing tension in a very soon manner. Defence Minister also said that India has ensured that its Jawans will be getting all their logistical support, and there would be some minus 40 and 30 degree temperature in the coming days there, and so they would need some specially made jackets, specially made clothing wear, tent houses and other supports. So India has invested, and there is no dearth of fund that Indian Defence Ministry is going to let happen. So for now, we should be understanding the fact that there is this long haul that is going to happen. Meanwhile, India and China both would not like to flare up the situation, and they would continue to talk at the leadership level. All
right. Also, we've given a broad outline to our viewers about the business which is expected to be transacted today in Parliament. You get us the details. How is the day planned ahead?
So, Preeti, at least first of all, sometimes at 11 o'clock in the morning. And also the two important bills that will be tabled in Parliament in Lok Sabha is bill for the consideration and passing of farmers, produce, trade and commerce, and banking regulation bill, and farmers empowerment and protection agreement, prices assurance, and farmers bill 2020. So these are the three major bills that will be tabled in the Parliament in the lower house of the Parliament today. You have also said that Harshvardhan, our health minister, is going to propose this bill, propose one Ayurveda related bill in the upper house of the Parliament that would ensure a respectable and dignified way of Ayurvedic treatment in the country, and that would acknowledge its role and its importance also in fighting with various of diseases.
All right, Abhishek, thank you so much for joining us with those inputs.
And moving on, the Union Cabinet has approved establishment of a new All India Institute of Medical Sciences at Bihar's Darbhanga. The institute will come up under the Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Suraksha Yojana at a total cost of 1,264 crore rupees. The new AIIMS is likely to be completed within a period of 48 months from the date of approval by the centre. The establishment of a new AIIMS involves creation of a hospital, teaching block for medical and nursing courses, residential complex and allied facilities or services broadly on the pattern of AIIMS, New Delhi. And as we were telling you, approval has come from the government for construction of the crucial Haryana Orbital Rail Corridor project from Palwal to Sonipat, which will decongest the railway network in the National Capital Region and connect unserved areas of the state. The Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs cleared the project to be completed at an estimated cost of 5,617 crore rupees and with a likely completion time of 5 years. This rail line will facilitate diversion of traffic not meant for Delhi, thus decongesting the NCR network, and will also help in developing multimodal logistic hubs in Haryana.
India has once again rebuked Pakistan for spreading its anti-India propaganda at international forums, exercising the right of reply to the statements made by Pakistan at the 45th session of Human Rights Council in Geneva. The Indian representative said that it has become habitual for Pakistan to malign India with false and fabricated narratives for its self-serving malicious purposes, and neither India nor others deserve this unsolicited lecture on human rights from a country that has consistently persecuted its ethnic and religious minorities and is an epicenter of terrorism. Exposing Pakistan for abusing various human rights mechanisms and platforms for raising issues which relate to the internal affairs of India, the Indian statement said that it is an attempt to distract the attention of the international community from serious human rights violations committed by Pakistan against its own people, including Indian territories occupied by it. India has also rejected the reference made by Organization of Islamic Cooperation to the Union Territory of Kashmir, which is an integral part of India. India said that the OIC has no local stand-eye to comment on the internal affairs of India. The OIC has allowed itself to be misused by Pakistan to subvert its own agenda. It is for the members of the OIC to decide if it is in their interests to allow Pakistan to do so. India said that Pakistan is under severe pressure from international organizations to act upon the menace of money laundering to stop terror financing. India also said that the nefarious designs of Pakistan also continue in Pakistan-occupied parts of Kashmir. The mass influx of outsiders has whittled down the number of Kashmiris to an insignificant number in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Thousands of Sikhs, Hindus and Christian minority women and girls in Pakistan have been subject to abductions, forced marriages and conversions. India said that the plight of people under its subjugation is well represented by the state of affairs in Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Sindh. Security forces of Pakistan are regularly blamed for disappearance of people in these regions. India also pointed out that the involvement of Pakistani authorities has been found in cases of intimidation and attacks against journalists, human rights defenders and political dissidents. Our correspondent Amritpal Singh is joining us to get us more on that. Amrit, here we see again a strong and a stern worded rebuke coming in from India, accusing Pakistan of falsely and maliciously blaming India. Give us more when we talk of the context of the statement which is made at the 45th session of Human Rights Council in Geneva.
Well, India was exercising its right of reply, Preeti, at this 45th Human Rights Council session in Geneva. where it took on Pakistan for, habitually bringing up the issues which are related to the internal issues of India and Jammu and Kashmir, and trying to mislead the world. In its right to reply, India very clearly said that it's a fabricated narrative which is put forth time and again at various international fora to essentially distract the attention of the international community, which already knows the situation in Pakistan, be it of the situation of the minorities there, ethnic minorities, be in in their own territories like Balochistan, like Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Sindh, or even Indian territories which are illegally occupied by Pakistan, which was a reference to Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, saying that human rights abuses take place, disappearances take place there, sectarian killings take place there. It gave a example of Balochistan, where almost every day, there are disappearances from a home where journalists are killed. India, took on saying that here is a country which has a prime minister who very proudly claims to have that his country has trained thousands of terrorists to create mayhem in Jammu and Kashmir. So India basically took on Pakistan. It also took on the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Countries, saying that it has no locus standi in Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan has allowed OIC, the forum of OIC, to be misused and allowed it to be subversed by Pakistan by making factually incorrect statements on Jammu and Kashmir, and Jammu and Kashmir is an internal matter of India, and neither Pakistan nor OIC has any locus standi to make statements on that. Preeti?
Right, Pakistan, as India has stated, is under severe pressure from international organizations to act upon the menace also of money laundering to stop terror financing, among others. Also because of human rights abuses against minorities within its territories, as you just said. What kind of effect in terms of recent incidents, in terms of recent steps that Pakistan has taken, can we say that all this has had on that country?
Well, yes, India did make that reference of the FATF without naming the FATF, saying that Pakistan is under pressure from international organizations to stop money laundering, and this money laundering which happens is essentially used by terrorist organizations to further their agenda of terrorism, in which Pakistan is hand in glove, or at least if it is not hand in glove, it is clearly looking the other way and let those operations continue in its own territory and run from its own soil, on which the international community, including the FATF and other organizations like the UN, which has designated terrorists, and they have made a reference to it, saying that they are UN designated terrorists being provided pensions by Pakistan, by the state of Pakistan. So FATF, the reference to FATF was in the context that money laundering is used for activities which are in not only anti-India, but they are anti the region and anti the world, and the world is seeing them, and that's why organizations like FATF are asking Pakistan to take strong measures against them, or face the music. Rukma?
Right, Amritpal, thank you so much for joining us there with those inputs.
And let's get to other news now. In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, over 16.79 lakh persons across 20 districts have been issued domicile certificates till 14th September. So far, 21,13,879 applicants have applied for the issuance of domicile certificate, out of which 16,79,520 were issued. In Kashmir Valley, over 4.16 lakh domicile certificates were issued, while 12.44 lakh such certificates were issued in Jammu Division. Over 2.7 lakh applications are pending, including 1.44 lakh in Jammu Division and around 1 lakh in Kashmir Division. Also, up next, we'll take a look at the COVID-19 situation from across the country. India continues to report high number of recoveries exceeding 70,000 every day. 79,292 recoveries were recorded yesterday, taking the cumulative total of recovered patients to 38,59,399. With this, the recovery rate currently stands at 78.28%. India's three-pronged strategy of test, trace and treat is proving to be a success. The fatality rate stood at 1.64%. The number of active COVID-19 cases in India stands at 9,90,061, which is 20.08% of the total cases reported so far.
The centre-led COVID management strategies have focused on early detection through widespread, easy and aggressive testing. According to ICMR's latest data, 10,72,845 people have been tested in a single day. The total number of people tested so far stands at 5,83,12,273. Meanwhile, Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan has stated that at the national level, there is no shortage of oxygen. He said the problem arises when there is no oxygen inventory management and when there is a possible shortage of alert generation mechanism at the hospital level, which needs to be monitored by states and union territories so that replenishment can be done in a timely manner.
Indian Railways on Tuesday said that it will run 20 pairs of clone trains from September 21st. The tickets for 19 pairs of these trains will be charged at the Humsafar Express rates, while it will be at par with Jan Shatabdi Express rates for the clone trains between Lucknow and Delhi. The advance reservation period for these trains will be 10 days and the booking will open at 8 a.m. on September 19th. While 19 pairs of Humsafar Express trains will be of 18 coaches, the Delhi-Lucknow train will have 22 coaches. These clone special trains will be in addition to the special trains which are already in operation.
U.S. Special Representative on Afghanistan Reconciliation, Ambassador Zalmay Khalilzad, was on a brief visit to Delhi on Tuesday. He called on External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar in the presence of National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla. During the meeting, Khalilzad briefed the Indian side about the U.S. assessment of the ongoing intra-Afghan negotiation and shared the U.S. perspective on Afghan peace. The two sides discussed future steps and possible cooperation between India and the US in furthering the Afghan peace process.
BJP President JP Nadda on Tuesday inaugurated an exhibition on the life journey of Prime Minister Narendra Modi as part of Seva Saptah. The party has started to mark the birthday of its top leader on September 17th. The exhibition has been organized at BJP's headquarters in Delhi. The exhibition of photographs depict the various phases of Prime Minister Modi's life and political career.
सोशल मीडिया में तो डिजिटल वर्ल्ड में ये प्रदर्शनी सबको उपलब्ध होगी ही, लेकिन प्रदेश कार्यालयों में, सभी प्रदेश कार्यालयों में भी इसी प्रकार से 70 स्लाइड्स की प्रदर्शनी प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के जीवनी के बारे में हम सबको देखने को मिलेगी.
Actor Kangana Ranaut amended her petition before the Bombay High Court on Tuesday and sought ₹2 crore from BMC for the demolition of her bungalow. The amended petition says that the civic body demolished 40% of the actor's office. On September 9, BMC undertook a drive to demolish alleged illegal portions of Ms. Ranaut's office and bungalow at Pali Hill. Soon thereafter, the court directed BMC to stay the process of demolition of actor Kangana Ranaut's bungalow in Bandra. BMC will file its reply to the same and the matter will be heard on September 22nd.
Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha chaired a sensitization meeting with religious leaders from across Jammu and Kashmir, highlighting the role of religious leaders and the greater Jan Bhagidari community participation. The Lieutenant Governor called upon them to make efforts for assisting sensitization, surveillance and driving behavioral change among the people to prevent the spread of the virus. He also urged them to spread awareness about the J&K health scheme, under which all families, even the ones which were earlier not eligible under Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, will be titled to get health insurance of 5 lakh rupees every year. The religious leaders unanimously assured the Lieutenant Governor and the Union Territory Administration that they would extend full cooperation to them in the fight against the ongoing pandemic.
All right, those were the national updates. Up next, we bring our next segment, Across the Globe, where we'll get you updates from across the world now. And a history was made at White House as leaders from Israel, United Arab Emirates and Bahrain met with President Trump and signed the Abraham Accord, which will normalize diplomatic relations between Israel and the two Arab nations. The first steps between Israel and both Bahrain and the UAE are an exchange of embassies and ambassadors, as well as the start of direct commercial flights between the countries. The deal brokered by Trump administration is also a major foreign policy win just ahead of November's presidential election. On the occasion, the president of the US said that today the world sees that these nations are choosing cooperation over conflict, friendship over enmity, prosperity over poverty, and hope over despair.
Without blood all over the sand. I say it. Right now it's been blood all over the sand for decades and decades and decades. That's all they do, is they fight and kill people, and nobody gets anything.
And speaking about the significance of the Abraham Accords, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that this day is a pivot of history. It heralds a new dawn of peace. For thousands of years, the Jewish people have prayed for peace. For decades, the Jewish state has prayed for peace. The people of Israel well know the price of war. Minister of Foreign Affairs, United Arab Emirates, Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, has said the peace requires courage and shaping the future requires knowledge.
As we say in Arabic, shukran, Mr. President. We are humbled to represent a nation which is only 48 years old, but full of hope, and wants to attract more hope in our region. Our region has suffered far too long, and we would like to show our people and our region and the world that there is some good news from our part of the world.
And the deal brokered by the Trump administration is also a major foreign policy win just ahead of November's presidential election. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
It's been called historic, a pivot of history, the end of decades of division. The so-called Abraham Accords have been signed in Washington, D.C. The foreign ministers of the UAE and Bahrain meeting with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and all of them watched over by the US President Donald Trump. It's taken several months to put this all together, but it ends many years of divisions between these countries. The Arab nations have until now effectively shunned Israel, boycotting it and isolating it. That all now ends, and it means that there will be able to be reciprocal trade between the three countries, that their economies will be opened up, there'll be travel and business opportunities. As you might imagine, the Palestinians, though, have heavily criticised this agreement. They feel a sense of betrayal in many ways that these Arab nations that have stood with them for so long against Israel are now siding with Israel by normalising relations. For Donald Trump, this is certainly a big coup for him. It's a foreign policy win, much needed just ahead of November's election. His so-called deal of the century, his attempt to bring peace to the Middle East, an agreement between the Israelis and Palestinians, hasn't come to pass, but he has been able to achieve this. It also helps him with pro-Israel voters, in particular evangelical Christians, an important bloc of voters who will be siding with him likely again in this coming election in just under 50 days' time and who voted for them in their droves 4 years ago.
And President Donald Trump held a Nevada campaign rally at an indoor venue, despite public health professionals' warnings against large indoor gatherings during the coronavirus pandemic. In the rally, people in the crowd were seated close together and many were not even wearing masks. Meanwhile, former Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden has criticized Trump for holding such events that put people at risk of contracting the coronavirus.
Also, Democrat Joe Biden made his first campaign visit of the year to Florida, where opinion polls show a tight race against President Donald Trump amid signs of lagging support for Biden among the battleground state's crucial Hispanic voters. Biden met with Tampa area veterans and their families for a roundtable at MacDill Air Force Base to discuss issues important to them. Florida, where Hispanics make up to about 20% of the state electorate, is a linchpin in Trump's re-election strategy.
Democratic vice presidential candidate Senator Kamala Harris toured an area in her home state California which has been damaged by devastating wildfires burning in the west, which have claimed at least 25 lives since mid-August. The fire has destroyed more than 6,200 homes. Dozens of wildfires have burned across some 4.5 million acres in California, Oregon and Washington state since August, ravaging several small towns, destroying thousands of homes and killing at least 3 dozen people.
And up next, we'll take a quick look at global updates on the COVID-19 situation from across the world. Over 2.97 crore COVID-19 cases have been reported from across the world, with over 9.38 lakh deaths. As many as 2.15 crore people have recovered from the virus so far. The United States continues to top the list, being the worst hit country by the pandemic so far, with the highest number of COVID-19 cases. The US has recorded over 67.87 lakh cases of COVID-19, with deaths now crossing 2 lakh. In terms of deaths, Brazil stands second on the tally with 1.33 lakh deaths. There are 43.84 lakh cases of COVID-19 in Brazil.
And so, Preeti, the US presidential campaign heating up, President Donald Trump campaigning there at full strength.
Yes, indeed. And also, let's see how the days ahead pan out for the contenders there. Up next is time for Web Review. Our correspondent Arun Sharma is joining us with that. All right, good morning, Arun. Thanks for joining in. Let us know what all is making headlines in the print media today.
Good morning, Preeti. Good morning, Rukma. Good morning, all our viewers. And we are once again back with this web news review, whereby we are, picking up top news and trends that's making news from the newspaper websites and, of course, the social media trends as well. So let's now take a look as far as various news that has been published. Now, the first news is from Times of India. Now it says that the Chief Economic Advisor K. Subramanian has said that India will be back to high growth through reforms after overcoming pandemic, and he said that when reforms unleash, we will be definitely on a high growth path. Now this is what K. Subramanian has said, and this is really good news as far as economy is concerned. Let's move to the second big news. This is from the Hindu. Now Hindu is quoting Rajesh Bhushan, who is the secretary in the health ministry. Now, he says that India has surplus medical oxygen. Now earlier the health ministry on Tuesday said that there is no shortage as far as oxygen supply for medical use is concerned, and as of now there is surplus as far as the production of medical oxygen is concerned. Now earlier also Centre told various states and UTs to have a proper infrastructure as far as oxygen cylinders and medical oxygen is concerned. Well, third big news is from again the health sector. Now, the Bill Gates has said that. Now, this news is from the Pioneer. Now, Bill Gates has said that India's role in production of COVID-19 vaccine critical in containing pandemic. Now, what is being quoted over here is that Bill Gates is saying that India's willingness to play a big role in the manufacturing of COVID-19 vaccine and allow it to supply to other developing countries will be a critical part in containing the pandemic. So that's what Bill Gates is saying, that India has a major role to play as far as combating COVID-19 is concerned. Now, this news is from Indian Express, an interview of the JEE main topper. Now, Laksh Gupta, who is the topper of JEE mains, he says that there are no plans as far as going abroad is concerned. He wants to work for the nation, and of course he said that he primarily Laksh Gupta has scored 100 percentile as far as JEE is concerned. So these youngsters are no doubt the future of India, and they want to work over here as far as working for nation is concerned. Next news is from the Statesman. A Statesman says that government launches portal against misleading advertisements, and Department of Consumer Affairs has launched this portal so that misleading advertisements can be controlled going forward. Now, the next big news is from the State Bank of India. Now, DNA is saying that State Bank of India to change the cash withdrawal rules from 18th of September. So from now onwards, after 18th of September, if in case you're debiting more than 10,000 rupees, you will be getting an OTP, OTP for a verification part, no matter at what time you are debiting from the ATM. So you'll be getting an OTP, and after the verification only, you'll be able to withdraw the 10,000 rupees, more than 10,000 rupees from State Bank of India. Now, this will ensure safety and security of the consumer as well as far as cash transactions are concerned. Now, next big news is from Mint. Now, Mint says that startup investors may get tax incentives. Now, basically, Parliamentary panel has proposed that there should be tax incentives for the startups so that the startups can increase their capacities, and of course they can also create jobs going forward. So this is news from the Mint, the pink paper. Now, next news primarily it's a tweet of Hardeep Singh Puri. Now, Vande Bharat mission is bringing smiles on the faces of various people who are stranded abroad. Now, Hardeep Singh Puri said that more than 16 lakh stranded Indians and distressed people have now come back. Now, yesterday only 3,251 Indians have come back as far as Vande Bharat mission is concerned. So, well, that's it in this edition of Web News Review, whereby we are tracking all the news that is dominating various newspaper websites. But for the news, back to you, Rukma and Preeti.
Well, thank you very much, Arun. Clearly, lots of changes in banking procedures, for example, diverse news stories there dominating the web as well as social media. Interesting how banking procedures have changed in the new normal, for example.
All right, up next we get to our next segment, that's Biz Plus, wherein we get you updates from the world of business.
Well, tough times ahead for fake importers. We tell you more in this segment. Well, after 21st September, the life of fake importers is really going to be very tough. The Finance Ministry has notified the new rules of origin for free trade agreements that will come into force from September 21st. Finance Ministry sources say new rules for administration of rules of origin under FTA coming into force will help in curbing the misuse of FTAs. New mechanism requires importers to exercise due diligence before importing the goods to ensure they satisfy the origin criterion for eligibility of duty concession under the FTA and declare this to custom. The new norms have been framed with a view to checking inbound shipments of low-quality products and dumping of goods by a third country, routed through an FTA partner country. Under this provision, a country that has inked an FTA with India cannot dump goods from some third country in the Indian market by just putting a label on it. It has to undertake a prescribed value addition in that product to export to India. Rules of origin norms help contain dumping of goods. In last 5 years, customs have detected fraudulent claims under FTA to the tune of 1,200 crore rupees. Irregular imports under FTAs have caused serious injury to the domestic industry.
Also, sources told our correspondent Ajay Mishra that, yes, when we talk of this, our correspondent was also told other aspects of this. He said that the sectors, the customs will be watching the FTA imports of items like mobile, white goods, set-top box, agarbatti, camera and other electronic products more closely under the new mechanism of verification when it kicks in.
And now we find out what's making news in the world of sports in our sports segment, Sports Track.
Talking of sports, first we'll talk of tennis. Italian Lorenzo Macetti earned the biggest win of his young career in the first round of the Italian Open on Tuesday. Macetti stunned three-time Grand Slam champion Stanislas Wawrinka 6-0, 7-6 in the first round. Now this is the 18-year-old's first ATP Tour victory. Macetti had only played one tour-level match before facing the former world number 3 in Rome, but the teen, who won 3 qualifying matches to reach the main draw, showed few nerves. He displayed an aggressive all-court game to oust Wawrinka. After 1 hour and 24 minutes, he won 49% of his return points and broke Wawrinka's serve 4 times.
And well, as always, we tell you something about health. Yesterday it was nutrition. Let's find out what we have in store for you in this segment today.
Alright, we'll talk of the importance of vitamin D in our lives. Vitamin D is one of the many vitamins our body needs to stay healthy. Our correspondent Kiran Bhardwaj spoke to Dr. R.K. Marwa about the importance and the role of vitamin D for our health.
Nutrition is the foundation of healthy life. We need variety of nutrients to keep our cells healthy. What is the importance and requirement of vitamin D for our overall health? Let's find out from Dr. R.K. Marwa. Dr. Marwa, what is the requirement and importance of vitamin D for our overall health?
The main function of vitamin D is to maintain blood calcium levels within normal range for sound bone health. Deficiency of vitamin D and calcium results in rickets in children, osteomalacia in adults, and osteoporosis and fractures in elderly. Recent studies have shown the role of vitamin D in reducing incidence of cancers like breast cancer, acute respiratory tract infections, acute asthmatic attacks, and autoimmune disorders like type 1 diabetes mellitus.
What are the sources through which we can get vitamin D?
Vitamin D is an important hormone for overall health and is primarily acquired through exposure of our skin to direct sunlight. In order to meet our daily requirement, one needs to expose 20 to 30% of our body surface area for 30 to 40 minutes per day between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. In the absence of sun exposure, one needs to consume foods fortified with vitamin D like milk and cooking oil, or take vitamin D supplements to meet body's requirement.
Regular exposure to sunlight during the day will help your body to produce vitamin D and keep you healthy. Kiran Bhardwaj, DD News.
So here we had the segment which talked of how important vitamin D is, and it is all the more important for absorption of calcium in the body.
Well, the importance of natural light, the light of the sun from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Yes.
Very important to expose yourself to direct sunlight, reiterated by Dr. Marwa there. And well, on the 16th of September, let's take a look at the major events that made history on this day.
Day in 1916, M.S. Subbulakshmi, a Carnatic vocalist, was born in Madurai. She was the first musician ever to be awarded the Bharat Ratna. This day in the year 1959, the first successful photocopier, the Xerox 914, was introduced in a demonstration on a live television from New York City. On this day in the 1963, the Federation of Malaysia was formally established. The federation formed under bitter opposition from Indonesia, which refused to recognize the country and waged a guerrilla war against it. This day in the year 1978, more than 11,000 people died after an earthquake measuring 7.7 on the Richter scale hit the southeast region of Iran. The town of Tabas, 600 miles from Tehran, was completely flattened, and 40 villages within a 30-mile radius of the epicenter were damaged.
All right, up next we get to our next segment, We Care, wherein we bring you one interesting report. Let's take a look at it. And COVID season has definitely made immunity the buzzword. After health supplements, vitamin tablets and karas to boost immunity during the pandemic, the latest entrants in the field are immunity boosting sarees. Yes, MP Handicraft and Handloom Development Corporation has now come up with these sarees treated with traditional herbs and spices to boost the skin's immunity. Take a look.
At a time when boosting immunity has become a priority for people amid the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, a special herbal sari has hit markets in Madhya Pradesh. These saris have been named Ayurvastra, are made using an assortment of herbal spices which are known for their immunity boosting properties. Vinod Malewar, the textile expert who is responsible for making these saris, claims that wearing these products will increase immunity.
It is an art of medicinal clothing. तो जो कपड़े हैं हम इनको जो है दवाई की तरह कैसे यूज़ कर सकते हैं. तो जब हम क्या करते हैं कि इनको अपने कपड़ों को हम ट्रीट करते हैं. ट्रीटमेंट जो है इसका, इन सब को हमने वस्त्र बनाया है. इन सब को हमने इम्यूनिटी बूस्टर हर्ब से ट्रीट किया है.
आयुर्वस्त्र मृगनयनी ने एक ऐसी चीज प्रस्तुत की है कि हमारे जो पारंपरिक जो छिपा समाज है, जिसने इस कला को हमेशा से संरक्षित करके रखा, उस विरासत को फिर से जिंदा करने का काम जो पढ़े लिखे छिपा समाज के जो लोग हैं, जिनके पास विजन है, वो इस काम को कर रहे हैं और हस्तशिल्प विकास निगम उनको पूरा प्रोत्साहन दे रहा है.
Not just saris, but other clothing is also being made using the spices. Cloves, cinnamon, cardamoms, maize, black pepper, royal cumin, bay leaf spices are used for treating the saris. All these spices are crushed together and kept in water for more than 48 hours. It is then kept on a furnace and then steam generated is used to treat the cloth for few hours. After the process, the cloth is used to make a sari. Immunity booster saris keep bacteria at bay even after 4 to 5 washes. The treated clothes increase skin's capacity to fight viruses.
And today is World Ozone Day. The theme for 2020 is Ozone for Life, 35 years of ozone layer protection. It marks 35 years of the Vienna Convention for the Protection of the Ozone Layer. Union Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Prakash Javadekar, tweeted, Ozone Day is to create awareness related to climate change and ozone depletion. With human efforts, the hole in the ozone layer has reduced. Look for ozone-friendly, HCFC-free, energy-efficient appliances to minimize the ozone layer impact. Those who never give up, never lose the battle.
And up next, we get you the weather report. According to the satellite picture presented by the IMT, the monsoon trough lies to the south of its normal position. Its eastern end is very likely to remain to the south of its normal position till tomorrow. Because of this, fairly widespread to widespread rainfall with isolated heavy falls is likely over coastal Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Madhya Maharashtra, Marathwada, coastal and north interior Karnataka and Kerala and Mahe during the next 3 days.
And moderate thunderstorms accompanied with lightning, very likely in isolated places over eastern UP, and thunderstorms with lightning at isolated places over Madhya Pradesh and Vidarbha, among others. Let's take a look at temperatures now recorded across towns in the country. Well, we've come to the end of this edition of Breakfast News. Well, Preeti, but clearly life limping back to normal in more ways than one after the impact of the COVID pandemic. Sports events that were hit hardest, now back on the forefront.
Yes, we will close our Breakfast News on this note, and we get you glimpses from Tour de France 16th stage, where Germany's Haryana grabbed the victory. Take a look. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.